this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back for another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Let's Stand with Amos Miller and the Amish for Food Freedom from RFK Jr. on Twitter, and I posted that, and it was him quote tweeting Thomas Massey, who said, "Looks like Amos Miller's farm is being raided. With all the problems in society, this is what the government wants to focus on." And RFK Jr. added, "The government is trying to criminalize all food production outside of approved government processing facilities. This is the final stage of a long war by big ag, food processors, and their government puppets to destroy family farms and wholesome food production. Thank you, Amos, for standing up for our health and our liberty to grow healthy food." And I said, "They are having an event to support Amos Miller on Thursday if you are in the Lancaster, PA area. I know one user on the subreddit who is, and Yeah, I personally think, Amos Miller, he should be able to make whatever he wants. I heard his milk might have killed a person or two. But that being said, if you're not forced to consume it, you should be able to make whatever you want. It might be deadly, but that's, any food could potentially give you food poisoning or kill you. And that's something that's important to remember. That's why I think, we need to support Amos Miller and his, fight for food freedom, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, sometimes the choices you make aren't the best ones, but you should be absolutely free to make them. And I said, something that came up from my Amos Miller post recently, I personally wouldn't want to engage in risky decisions that might end in death, like doing hard drugs or lighting myself on fire, but I'm not in control of your body. What you decide to do is up to you, and you alone. I should not have a say in it, even if my opinion of it is negative. I said, folks, it's like, I personally think, even if you want to justify something that's unquestionably a NAT violation, let's say you want to do a mass shooting, I personally hope you fail and get fuck around, find out as soon as possible. But I don't want to tell people what you can and can't do, Ultimately, it's what you want to do for your body is your choice, and that's not on me, Do whatever you want to and justify whatever you want to. But with that being said, I might have a negative opinion on it, and if I do, I will definitely make that known. That's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, you can tell these aren't feds because of their commitment to their characters from being libertarian on Twitter, and I posted that, and and they also had on a side note, I can't imagine the BO in New York right now, and that was them quote tweeting Disclosed TV, who tweeted new communist marching in Brooklyn, New York City. And I said I know the subreddit had an IRL meetup, so there seems like there's a lot of communists on the subreddit. But regardless, I think, the thing is that, there might be a Fed or two in there, but, ultimately, I think, that a lot of people, if you don't like the Nazis marching through the streets, you probably shouldn't like the communists marching through the streets either, because they're pretty much equally authoritarian, and will each use the force of the state to bully you to do whatever they want you to do. Then we have Clarence Thomas announces 50% discount on all favorable rulings from TheOnion.com by Paton Furtan. And yeah, I definitely don't like Clarence Thomas. I think he's a grifter just like the rest of the Supreme Court. And ultimately, I think that's why we probably shouldn't have any courts. We need to because the judges are ultimately just gonna do whatever they want to, and there's no one to hold them accountable for it. Like, who judges the judges? That's the question here. And that's personally why I think we need to have people to settle matters their own way outside of courts, rather than have these authoritarian courts deciding what is and isn't legal. Then we have poll. Almost a third of Americans say the First Amendment goes too far from reason, and I posted that, and I said, definitely not the best news. I think, it just goes to show you that we probably won't have the First Amendment and free speech for too much longer. I think in the near future, the United States might end up looking like China with its censorship regime and jailing of political dissidents. But we'll have to see what happens on regards to that front. Then we have Oklahoma lawyer stands by calling members of LGBTQ plus community filth from Coco.com by Kage blah blah blah. And I didn't call him that one. I personally don't think people should be calling other people filth. With that being said, ultimately, I do think he should have the free speech to do so. Free speech includes speech for those who we despise, as Noam Chomsky says, and that's one of the few points I agree with Chomsky on. Then we have, I was a heretic at the New York Times from the Atlantic, and I posted that, and I said the first two paragraphs were trending on Twitter recently, but the rest of the article is a good read as well. It reminds me a lot of Reddit when you go against a circle jerk. You're not, it's like, at the New York Times, you're not allowed to go against whatever the liberal/DNC circle jerk is. Well, just like on Reddit, or they'll come after you for it, and that's just how, what the article says as well, he says, oh, I like the spicy chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A, and then the guy running the meeting says, oh, we don't do that here, they hate gay people, and everyone, all the other people snap to that, and I think that just goes to show you how much of a circle jerk it is. They also said, "Oh, we won't run this op-ed from Tom Cotton because it goes against our values." Well, previously they had run op-eds from people like Muammar Gaddafi, and that just goes to show you how they don't like any dissent as long as it's domestic and it goes against the official DNC circle jerk. Then we have Palestine by Sean from Rubber Stump Baby, and that's a YouTube video. And yeah, I personally am more on the anti-Zionist side. I would agree with that. I think we need to have a stable two-state solution, and that's something that I personally think is, I don't know if that's really that possible, but I think we should at least kind of try. And also, that just doesn't mean I support Hamas. I don't like how Hamas wants to kill all the Jews, and I think that's kind of very authoritarian. You shouldn't just be killing people because of their race or ethnicity. That's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have poll: vast majority of Americans cool to Christian nationalism as its influence grows, from Axiosstoic.com by Clorox, and that's crosswords from the March Against Nazis subreddit. And I personally think we need to focus on individualism rather than nationalism, and that's something that I think, is increasingly being lost in today's world, and I think that's a shame, but hopefully we can fight back against the nationalists and support the individualists instead. If people want to form a collective voluntarily, like a nation, I think they should be able to do so. With that being said, I don't think people should be forced to join that collective if they don't want to. I'm against forced collectivism, not voluntary collectivism. Then we have McConnell to step down as Senate GOP leader after 2024 election, from Axios.com by Dr. Who 07. And I said, I hope Rand Paul replaces him, but I think that the party establishment doesn't like him. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think a lot of them should step down. Just look at Pelosi and Feinstein. Term limits are definitely anti-democratic, but they're definitely one of the best ideas anyone has ever had, in my opinion. Then we have the ATF's violation of individual rights, a libertarian perspective on the Waco siege, from lptexas.org by LP Texas official, and that's a cross post from their account. And I said, the Branch Davidians were kind of on the kookier side, but that doesn't justify the feds bombing and killing them. Then we have Ambassador Linda Thomas's address disrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters, from African Stream, and that's a video they shared. And I think if people want to disrupt whatever free speech they want, I think that's ultimately they'll justify. I personally think that kind of goes against free speech. But with that being said, I definitely do support people's right to protest however they feel like, as long as it's peaceful. I would say, I don't really support violent protests. But if people want to do violent protests, ultimately that's their decision and not mine. Then we have a shameful attack on free speech in Laura Marion from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I posted that. And I said, one of the articles that was censored, if you guys want to read it for yourself, not too surprising if you're from the area like me, it might as well be Israel West. You can see tons of Jews, synagogues, and I Stand for Israel signs out there. Benjamin Netanyahu himself actually spent a few years growing up in neighboring Cheltenham Township. And, ultimately, I think, if you want to stand for Israel, you should be able to, you should be able to say whatever opinions you want on the situation. But with that being said, I don't think that justifies censorship like it does in this situation. Then we have Exxon CEO blames public for failure to fix climate change from thehill.com by Zach Ness. And I don't really have any, I guess, ultimately people can blame whoever they want on the issue. But that being said, I do think we need to hold corporate authoritarianism like Exxon accountable if they pollute our environment and potentially contribute to climate change. And that's my thoughts on that issue. With that being said, I don't think that's justification for state authoritarianism. I think it needs to be through the free market, not the state. Then we have Arizona Republicans advance bill legalizing killing migrants on suspicion of trespassing from Axios.com by Baton 13. And, I definitely think, you shouldn't be killing people if they're not violating the NAP. But with that being said, if you want to consider illegal immigration to be a NAP violation, ultimately, I guess, that's your decision and not mine. I personally think that's just another example of the state's authoritarianism, though they can kill you or arrest you for whatever reason they want to. Because they are ultimately in a position of power and you aren't. But that's why we need to stand up and for ourselves and not let the state just walk all over us. And we have checked this out from FlimsyL5563, and that's a quote from the ACAB subreddit. And it's a TikTok video. Father of Uvalde child killed in Texas school murder says fuck and promptly gets arrested. And ultimately, that just goes to show you how the police can arrest you for anything if they want to. And that's why, we gotta stand up for ourselves rather than just let them walk all over us. And finally, we have pug witching scams from John Oliver on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, John Oliver is definitely more on the DNC circle jerky side. You can tell from the Stephen Miller joke he makes during the segment, but this is one of his more decent segments. It's 2024, though. Pretty much everything is a scam anyway, and that's important to remember. everyone does want to sell you something, and that's, everything's pretty much either a grift or a scam these days. And eventually, and that's why, life can be very hard with everyone really as desperate as they are currently. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.